I think the public might be looking at you and your position right now and thinking, for the good of the Liberal Party, why is he staying on?
Thank you for your concern, Laura.
Wow. Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Justin Trudeau was in Port Colborne yesterday, and he was asked one of the most savage questions I think we have ever heard put to him by a reporter.
Let's take a look.
Hi, Laura Stone, Globe and Mail. Prime Minister, I want to ask you about leadership. Polls have put you 20 points behind the Conservatives, and it doesn't seem to be getting better despite your recent communications push from your budget. The public appears to have an overwhelmingly negative view of you personally, and you seem to have lost control of the conversation on some of the key issues that Canadians care about. I think the public might be looking at you and your position right now and thinking, for the good of the Liberal Party, why is he staying on?
Thank you for your concern, Laura.
Wow.
Did you see that forced smile there? Wow, guy got raked over the coals.
Wow. And you know what?
He deserves it. Nothing she said was incorrect.
What I'm laughing at is that it's always in the Ford press conference.
It is too.
Ford's like, again? I thought we were going to make it through one without one of these things.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow. Globe and Mail dropping the bomb on Trudeau. Holy moly, man. They're not wrong. They are not wrong. Trudeau is almost below Jagmeet Singh in terms of the preferred leader of the country. It's just crazy. And it's amazing to hear a reporter ask these questions that are in everybody's head, because now he has to answer it.
But as you see, we're here investing in good jobs for today and for generations to come. The world is in a challenging place, absolutely. But that's why for 8 years this government has been putting forward investments and a frame that both fights climate change and creates good jobs and economic growth, that understands that if you want to bring in strong investments and great jobs for Canadians, you have to be making investments in things like childcare, like pharmacare, like healthcare, investments in supporting our seniors, investments to make sure that young people get the best opportunity as they go off to post-secondary education. I know there are lots of folks in Ottawa thinking about process. I'm focused on results for Canadians. I'm focused on delivering the kinds of things that are going to set Canada and Canadians up for success over the coming decades, because that's the moment we're in right now. A different government years ago wouldn't have made the choice to build an EV ecosystem here in Canada. Would have doubled down on the oil and gas industry and stayed away from anything that threatened the oil and gas industry.
Well, isn't that just nice, considering that major auto manufacturers are publicly stating that they're starting to move away from electric vehicles?
Well, and not only that, but electric vehicles were in their infancy when Harper was in government.
Yeah, they barely even existed, so...
Like, you heard about them and they were an oddity, and it's like, how well did they work? Not very well.
Now, if you want to play hypothetical and say, you know, would they have invested in a EV ecosystem in Canada? Well, I can tell you what they probably would have done. They probably would have greenlit some mines. They probably would have leveraged the natural resources that we have right now. Here's the issue with creating a quote-unquote EV ecosystem now. It is super expensive to do so. Like, the technology is still, with these other companies, still relatively in its infancy. Right? So the issue with technology is that at its birth, technology is at its most expensive. That's the interesting about it. Over time, it gets cheaper.
Yeah, think of how much, a TV used to cost in the 80s, and it was one of those little tube TVs, and every family pretty much had one, and that was it. If you had two TVs back when we were growing up, it was a luxury. And now everybody's got like a TV in every room, and their flat screen and their LED or LCD or whatever. The technology keeps getting better, and the price tag keeps going down.
Now, the issue is that I think EVs are going to be just some sort of stopgap kind of until we get to something else, or the technology matures enough so that it actually makes it more viable and cost effective. That's the issue with solar panels, right? Solar panels seem like a great idea. Well, the issue is they were selling these people on this idea of solar panels on their houses, and it was like $60,000, but there's this payment program that you work at with the government and all of this stuff. Well, the issue is like, it's like 5 years later and solar panels are, 10, 20, 30, 40% more efficient than the ones that you put on your house. Well, now what? And this is the problem, because you're trying to put these pieces in place in their infancy when they're not mature. And these solar panels, as Fox has stated on the channel before, if they get a light dusting of snow, well, they're useless.
Or what if there's a hailstorm and the panel gets ruined? I mean, you cannot recycle those.
Right.
They go in the trash, and there's a lot of harmful chemicals in those.
So it's the question is when do you make these investments, not if you make these investments. And that's the part that Trudeau has no concept of when it comes to an economy.
No, because he thinks he can just throw money at anything and everything will be all right.
And then say, look at me, I've created all these jobs.
Well, we know that the pressure we're putting on the oil and gas industry to decarbonize and to invest in renewables goes hand in hand with our decision to invest massively in the electrification of our economies. Because we have the clean electricity here in Canada, we have the high-quality manufacturing workers, we have the social and economic stability that countries around the world and companies around the world are looking for. This is about building a plan for the future of this country. That's what we're focused on, and that's what I will continue to be focused on, because building a better future for Canadians, bringing in fairness for every generation, that's what I am 100% focused on right now.
I'm inspired.
Yeah, way to skirt around the question. If
Right.
he was really interested in investing in energy, they would go nuclear. Nuclear is the safest and the greenest option that we have, and it's got a bad PR problem, is the only problem.
Yeah, and it's one of the most abundant. It's the by far produces by like not even a country mile, a country light year. Like that's the scale we're talking about. It produces that much more electricity per square foot of occupation than any other solution out there.
Well, and then the common argument is always, oh, what about the waste? What about the waste? One nuclear fuel rod can fuel one home for 100 years.
So
That's the amount of waste we're dealing with. Not very much, because, again, one rod, 100 years, one house.
Yeah, and the CANDU reactors, they will take used rods from other nuclear reactors as fuel. They're that efficient. So this is the thing. He's talking about, well, we have the green energy. Well, ask Alberta about that, because they were getting rolling blackouts, when it was really, really cold. So, but you've deprived the provinces of some of their electric plants because you're saying, oh, well, we're using green energy. Well, green energy, especially if you're talking wind and solar, doesn't work all the time.
No, it doesn't. And that's where nuclear can pick up the slack.
Right. And the issue is that wind and solar, so because they don't produce a constant load, you cannot rely on them in terms of the system capacity. So it's nuclear or hydro. And there's only so many places in Canada where you can actually put in a hydroelectric dam. And even that, you can argue, there's arguments to be made, well, that's not exactly the best for the environment, depending on where it is. So this whole whole napkin plan about a green economy, yeah, it sounds nice, but his implementation of it is terrible. Do we all want to respect the environment? Yeah. Do we all want to make sure that we're doing things in a relatively clean way to protect the environment? Yeah. But
you can't just pull the plug on oil and gas right now when we have nothing else in place.
right, you have to set a transition. You can say that's 25, 30 years out.
And start building nuclear plants.
Yeah. And allow the auto sector to gracefully move over, because otherwise you're destroying industry, you're destroying economy, and I'm sorry, that's what we're seeing in Canada right now, and that's what your polls are reflecting. So you can say all the stuff that you want, but the message is clear, Trudeau. Canadians want you out.